Good morning, Flosstube. I'm Misty Purcell. Welcome to my channel. If this is your first time here, thanks so much for visiting. And if you've been here before, thank you so much for coming back. I know there's a lot of videos out there, and I really appreciate the time that you take to hang out with me. And I really appreciate all the kind comments that people leave. It's such a great community, and I love hearing from you. Today is Saturday, July 28th. Can't believe it's almost August. The time is flying. Classes will be starting again soon. I've been working really hard to prepare for the fall semester. I'm preparing one class that I supervise, so I've been writing exams and essay questions, preparing lessons and revising them, and working on documents that have to be posted for the students, like the syllabus that they don't read. You know how it is. Okay, so I wanted to mention a new Flosstuber. Her name is Elizabeth, and her Flosstube channel is the Silver Scissor. And I follow Elizabeth on Instagram. She's the Silver Scissor Sews on Instagram. And, well, one, she has an awesome channel name and Instagram name. I love that, the Silver Scissor. And she gave me a mention in her second video. You should really check out her videos. She does some amazing stitching. She really likes with thy needle and thread. She has 5 kids. I believe she said they're all adopted. And she lives in Utah. She does sewing. She's a kindred spirit in her enthusiasm for Halloween. So I'm a Halloween fanatic, and I think that she loves Halloween stitching too. So check out Elizabeth. I will link her in the video information below. What else? Okay, I have one finished object, and that is my 12 Days of Christmas Cricut Collection series that I was stitching with Jackie from Cross My Stitches for Christmas in July. So, can you hear the choir of angels singing hallelujah because I finished this after a decade? Yes, I can. So the last one in the series, number 12, which was the penguin, I finally finished him. Yay! I love his monocle. I think that's probably my favorite detail. So all of them are done, and I'm thrilled. And I don't really want to take 10 years to do any more series, so I'm gonna have to be a little faster in the future. So now I'm going to fully finish all the ornaments. I'm not going to rush that. I'm just going to kind of plod along and get that done. And I don't know if I'll do any kind of schedule or if I'll just, you know, like maybe one a week. I don't know. I don't want to be like too strict about it because I might then rebel and not work on it. One thing that I've realized about myself recently is that sometimes I really want things done, and so I will just push towards the end to get it done, which gets it done, and it feels good to have things done, but that slog at the end of me like making myself finish something is sometimes like just not enjoyable. And I think if I would just like allow myself to take my time, I would have more fun. So that is something I'm thinking about, is like letting finishing be fun and not torture. So that's done. I'm really happy about that. Jackie did do some other Christmas stitching, and she just finished Joy, and I can't remember if that's Country Cottage or Little House Needleworks, but she's got a beautiful piece that she just finished. So I don't know if she's going to try and squeeze in any more Christmas stitching before the end of the month. I'm not anything that I can show, so I'm working on some Christmas gifts, stitching and otherwise, and I can't show those right now. So I actually am a little bit more productive than it will appear, but I can't share right now, just in case the recipient or recipients are watching. Okay, so WIPS. I've got Sally Spencer Saturdays, so I'll be working on this today. And I finally made some progress on this. Sorry, some of it's covered up by the having to scroll upward, but you can see that I finished back here, started down here. So I've got one more row of letters to stitch. I'm not, you know, I mean, this is going relatively quickly, but I kind of need the scroll rod for other projects. I don't know whether to take it off or just keep going. and try to figure something else out. I don't know. I'm a little uncertain here, but it's beautiful. It's a little bit more vibrant, I think, than it's showing up here. The colors are a little bit muted on the video, but I'm loving it, and I'll love it even more when I'm done stitching those letters. American flag quilt sampler. Remember, this is my birthday start, so I've been working on this since April 30th. Ideally, I'm doing one square a week, but you know, that's not quite how it's working out. It's more like 1.5 weeks per square-ish. And that's turning out really nice. So I finished South Carolina, and now I'm working on New Hampshire. Another thing I started doing is that each day that I work on this, I add in one strand or one length of floss over here so that I can start working my way across the flag. One strand of floss or one length of floss just gets you a column of boxes and a column of stripe here. That's it. So, I mean, it's slow, but at least it's moving me forward on that as well. And this is beautiful and rewarding. I'm enjoying it. Yeah, it's gorgeous. So I just finished the back stitching this morning after screwing up a couple of times because sometimes I just can't count or read patterns. Okay, goat load. This is a gift for my mom for her birthday, which is coming up far too quickly. So maybe it won't be a gift for her birthday, I don't know. I'm not gonna worry about it right now. But I made lots of progress on this. This is my Sunday project. So Sally Spencer Saturdays, goat load Sundays, and then I just work on the American flag quilt sampler whenever, every day, whenever. So I stitched the goat and some of the flowers. I did the cute little bee. So yeah, I made a really good progress. I had to change out the white. I really liked the kind of cream color that was called for the DMC, but it just wasn't showing up on my fabric, especially with only one strand, which is what I'm doing, one strand over two. And this is a 36 count vintage country mocha. So this is B5200 instead. I also changed out this pink from what was called for because I didn't have the exact color, so I just found something else I liked. And then I forgot to stitch some of the white in the middle of the flowers, so it's just a design element, whatever, and I'm not changing it. So it's just light pink with the black instead of light pink and white with black. Awesome needle minder from Mad for Minders. I'm obsessed with her needle minders. She has awesome ones. So I'm happy. I'm making really good progress on my WIPS, and but I feel like I'm having a little bit of trouble juggling them. I always want to spend a little bit more time on each one than I can. I think I'd prefer to have 3, and I've really got 4 because I started, once I finished the 12 Days of Christmas series, I had to start Halloween because I've been going crazy thinking about how I need to stitch Halloween. So I wanted to stitch for one of the things I bought at the antique shop that I mentioned last time. I've got something I'm going to be displaying some of my cross stitch on. So I started When Witches Go Riding by Prairie Schooler. And so you can see, I think this probably calls for lamb's wool. They like to use that a lot. I wanted to dye something that was kind of a cream color and used that. And I calculated what size I wanted to display, and I decided I needed 32 count. So I was practicing dyeing some 32 count linen. I'll show you what I came up with. So I used some Rit dye, and I kind of found like a color that I thought I wanted. And you know, with Rit dye, they give you formulas, but they give you it for like 3 gallons of water or a gallon of water, and then how much to use. So, you know, you try to figure out, well, okay, I'm not using a gallon, I'm using like a cup of water, so how does that translate? And you don't really know. So I did my first one, my first attempt. And I got this lovely, oh, you can't tell how yellow it is, let's see. That's better. Got this lovely shade of yellow, which is quite pretty. There, now you can see. It's quite pretty. It's just not what I wanted. So you know what, but it's not ruined. So if you've been wanting to try dyeing fabric, you're not gonna ruin your fabric. You might get a color you don't want. You can try over dyeing it to get some other color, but it's not ruined. And if you ruin it, whatever, what is it, like $6, cut a small piece, $10, $13, like it's not a big deal. It's okay if it doesn't go the way you want it to. It's fine. It's gonna be fine. Don't be afraid, okay? So clearly this was too yellow, but it was at least cream-ish. So then I tried again, and I diluted that a lot. And then I got what I wanted, which is this. So it's kind of a yellow, and then I over dyed it with a little bit of brown, and I think it just looks awesome. It's like the best color ever. So I'm super happy. So you have to screw up in order to find the thing that you want. Like, how are you gonna know without trying stuff? You're gonna have failures. That's what you learn from. That doesn't mean I like screwing up or that I'm always like confident, but you know, you just know that that's part of the process, right? So this is 32 count Belfast that I dyed. So I'm stitching 2/2. I'm using most of the called for DMC for this, but I changed out 3 of the colors. So my orange is not the called for orange, it's a bit brighter. And then I changed out the cream to be a little bit creamier. And there's a gold that I changed. And honestly, I'm not sure you can tell much difference between the DMC original color and the color I picked, but I just thought it was a little bit more golden. So I've got one of the kitties on the top border done. And of course, another awesome needle minder. So again, from Mad for Minders on Etsy. She has tons of great needle minders. And of course, it's so appropriate for when witches go riding to have a witch riding with a moon. Okay. So that was a segue into a new start, and that's my new start. I fantasized that I might have it done by the end of August, because September 1st is when we start the 'Tis the Season Stitch Along. And everybody is stitching this, so you should join in. If you're on the fence, you should join in. The 'Tis the Season Stitch Along is from this book, Home for the Holidays, or there's an older book, but that's pretty much impossible to find, so don't worry about the older book. Okay, so this is the design. Starts Saturday, September 1st. There's a Facebook group you can join. I linked it in my last video. I'll link it again. It's beautiful. I've wanted to stitch this for years, and I'm glad I'm finally doing it. So I started collecting some of the flosses, and so I got some of the Belle Soie, which is what it calls for. Let's see if I can show them to you without dropping everything. That's hard. Now I changed the red. The red I think was Poison Apple, and when I looked at Poison Apple in person, it wasn't the right shade to me, so I think it's just a dye lot thing, probably. So these are the Belle Soie. That I have. And then I also picked out this Week's Gold. This is Whiskey. So I'm using those, and then I was missing a couple of colors. So I ordered the Victorian Motto Sampler thread pack, and then I got that orange that I'm going to use, and I'm probably using the green. I kind of want a green that's a little bit yellower or has some yellow flecks in it. So I don't know if I would try to over dye some of this or just see if I can dye my own. I like it, but I wouldn't mind if it were a little bit, if there were a little bit of yellow. So that's just a thought I'm having. And I wanted to dye my own fabric for it. So I started with some fabric, quilting fabric in my stash. It's It's a little bit bluer, but you're kind of getting pretty close to the color here. And so I looked at what was in this color-wise, and then I tried to figure out how to dye this in my linen. And the first attempt, I didn't actually like put the linen in, thankfully. I just looked at the water and put some paper towel in. I'm like, ooh, that's Christmas green, which was not what I was going for. So I tweaked it until I had actually had to dump that round, and then I got, with some effort, this one, which is perfectly what I wanted. A little bit lighter, but a perfect match. And then I added a little bit of brown to kind of grunge it up a bit. So I'm super pleased, and the flosses look really nice on it. This is 40 count Newcastle, so it's Swigart that I dyed. Hard to show them all, but I think it's gonna look really good. My concern was showing off the white. So if you remember, I had found some fabric at a cross-stitch shop that I thought I would use, but I just wasn't quite sold on it, and I thought I might want something a little bit bluer. So blue-green, kind of a vintage Christmas look. So I'm excited to start that. I'm excited to use my linen that I dyed myself. That's so fun. Very satisfying to know what color I want and then be able to make that happen on fabric. You know, it's pretty incredible and kind of magical, just like weaving is kind of magical. Then I did one other piece. This is for a Brooks Books ornament that I'm going to be stitching at some point. There we go. So it's a blue-green color. So I'm very pleased with how that turned out as well. So I'm having a good time with the dyeing. I'm addicted and I can't stop. I just want to dye fabric all day. Okay, so that was my plans for September and August. Pretty much booked up with stitching. I've got a new warp on the loom, so I'm in the process of threading the heddles for that. It's gonna be really cool. I'm gonna have towels that are several different patterns, but they all use the same threading. So they'll just be threaded all the same, but they'll look totally different. And it'll be like, how are these all kind of related? But they are, so it's cool. So I'm about a third of the way with the heddles being threaded, so I probably need a couple more hours to do that and then get tied onto the loom after I rough slay the reed. So other plans, I'm going to do a weaving video, not as a Flosstube video, I'll just do it as a separate video on my channel. I might call it something like, I don't know, loom tube, warp tube, I don't know, I'll think about it. Anyway, I'm thinking I'm going to have 4 segments maybe with different topics. So I'm starting to plan those videos out, so you can look for those if you're interested. I'll talk about things like different kinds of looms, how to acquire a loom, resources once you want to start weaving, like how do you get help or where do you get information, and then different things that you can weave. So I think that will be probably about 4 or 5 videos-ish. So thanks to those of you who let me know that you're interested, and I'm excited to do that. I think it'll be pretty fun. Purchases. So I don't have very many purchases, just a couple. I saw this on Cheryl McKinney's channel a while ago. This is the Ghost alphabet, and since I am a sucker for Halloween, I had to get it. So adorable, totally adorable. And then I also thought this would be a really fun ornament to stitch for Christmas. So this is Lizzie Kate, and Baby It's Cold Outside is the name of this. And then a friend of mine works at a place that takes craft supplies as donations for a charitable organization, and resells them, and she used to be a stitcher. She's mostly a knitter now, but she knows I'm on the lookout for prairie schooler charts, and she had a couple come in, so she bought them for me. I think they were like 25 cents each. So, and I didn't have either of these, so she got me a prairie garden as a gift. So I was really excited about. And then she got me the New World sampler. So that was very nice. Okay, so I'm going to, my From the Archives this week is a tour of my quilts that are wall hangs, most of them. And I have some, I only have like 2, 3, 4, I think there were like 5 in the video. And then I have one more that fell off the wall that I'll show you at the end. And I had moved something. I use the command hooks to hang my quilts, and I had moved a quilt over, and it apparently doesn't like the new location, which is just inches away from where it was before. So about every week or so it falls off the wall. So I'll do the video and I'll insert that, and then I'll show the other wall hang. I have some other wall hangs that are seasonal, so I'll share those in subsequent videos. So I will insert that here. So I wanted to give you a tour of some of the quilts that I have hanging on the wall, and I changed some of them out seasonally, but what I have up is what I'll show you now. So this was a quilt that I made several years ago after I'd taken an introduction to hand applique, a class on that. So this is from the book Fat Quarter Quilting, and I just really liked this design. You can see that there's a lot of reproduction style fabrics in this piece. And so I did this as my first needle turn applique project, and it went pretty well. I don't use a lot of reproduction fabrics anymore, but I really still like them, and I think that this color palette is pretty representative of colors I like to work with. So even though maybe the style of the fabric isn't what I currently work with, I think that this still really fits in my decor pretty well. And this is a quilt that I just love. So then after I did this, this was like my first real applique project, then I decided to do something that was kind of huge, which is next to it. And this is a hand applique quilt as well. This is from the book Tile Quilt Revival. And all of the quilts in the book are based on the idea of blocks that kind of look like tile, like little pieces of tile. So this was a multi-year project, and was quite challenging, because really the idea is that you would most likely do your applique fused and raw edge rather than needle turn, but I wanted to do needle turn, and that's what I did most of the quilt as. I changed my technique. I tried a few different techniques, and I found that my shapes, even following very good instructions about how to do needle turn applique, I just had a lot of problems with my shapes kind of moving around on me, and I got really frustrated. So I kept looking for other ways. So I tried some other techniques in the process of making this quilt. I didn't find the one I wanted at the time, but I found a technique I like better now. So just as a side comment to Elizabeth Vintage Stitches, who was talking about wanting to throw out one of her projects the other day, this one, as I was putting it together, I was so frustrated with how it was going once I had it done and was sewing the blocks together that I actually almost threw it away. I can't believe it now that I was thinking of that, but I was really frustrated, and because the blocks just weren't square, and yeah, anyway, I thought about throwing it away, and luckily I thought it over, and then the next morning I was okay with it, and you know, now I'm glad I didn't throw it away, but I was really mad at it at one point. So the book Tile Quilt Revival has a lot of really neat patterns in it, and it's a cool project, but it was a really quite a big time investment. And the way that I chose my fabrics for this quilt was that my inspiration fabric was this floral right here. So I took the different dots in the selvage that show you what colors are printed, and I started pulling my fabrics from my stash, or fabrics that I bought from that color palette, and then just kind of supplemented in other things that I thought would go well. And I love the, you can't see it very well, but the background print was a lantern print, and it's just kind of a cool background for an applique project. This quilt is from the book 15 Minutes of Play by Victoria Finley Wolf, and the concept of the book is made fabric. So you're basically sewing lots of little pieces together and then cutting them out into whatever shape you want, whether, as you can see here, I have multiple squares, or the roses and the tulips. Whatever design you'd want to make, even half square triangles could be composed of multiple tiny pieces of fabric. So I'll move up closer. This is not foundation pieced. It's just made fabric. You're just taking a bunch of little pieces and sewing them together and then cutting them out into whatever shape you want. So this is a very scrappy quilt. And a friend and I were working from the book around the same time. And it was just kind of a fun challenge. We swapped scraps. You can see she contributed some of the kitties that are in there. So it's fun because, of course, I think of her when I see this quilt. And this just was kind of a cool one. There's there used to be a Flickr group also based on that book. And so I just saw a bunch of projects I liked in the group and was kind of inspired by the roses someone else had done to do this, and then I took a template I had on hand to do the tulips. And this is just one of those quilts that came together really easily for me. Like I started piecing the light blocks in the middle first, and I didn't really have a plan in mind, but it just kind of evolved as I made it, and I've never made anything that it just flowed. I just kind of, when I got done with one part, I knew what the next thing was that I needed to do, and then when I'd finished the next section, that just kept happening. And so you can see the quilting as I finished it up, that I kind of did these like kind of rays of light coming out of the center, and then all the squares on the side. I quilted little squares within them. So this was just a super, super cool project, and I'm so glad that I did it. Okay, so next to it is a more recent quilt. One of the, probably, I guess the most recent one in this video. This is a drunkard's path. And when this line of fabric that the dark part is made up of, when this fabric line came out, I just fell in love with it. And so a few of the other fabrics from that line are in this quilt as well, but I'd wanted to do a drunkard's path for a while. So I played with some layouts, and I pulled some fabrics that would go with this print. And I just had a really good time making this. So this was the layout ultimately that I chose. And then I was working on my free motion quilting. So I spent some time thinking about how I wanted to quilt it. And so I've actually, this was like the best free motion quilting experience I had. I just kind of got better finally at it. But I kind of planned out my blocks. So the circles have kind of a floral design in them. And then the outer part of the circle, the cutout, has like rays with squiggles in between. So this was a really fun project, and I love the colors on this quilt. It's so pretty. And next to it is this quilt, which I would say is me but not me. So this is from Miss Rosie's Quilt Company. The pattern is a schnibble, which is like a small quilt, and it's called Mon Ami. And the fabric line was from French General. And so I probably wouldn't normally make a quilt with these exact fabrics, but I loved French General and I love this line, and she'd made this quilt and I just had to have it. So even though I would say maybe it doesn't quite fit with the rest of my style of quilts, like, I don't care. My style's kind of weird anyway. It's kind of eclectic. So this was a charm pack, which are little 5-inch fabric squares that you cut out into whatever you need them to be, or you use them as squares, whatever you're doing. So I made stars. I mean, I don't remember exactly how long this took me, but it wasn't a super involved quilt. Went together relatively quickly, and I still just love it. So this is one of my patriotic pieces that I got out from Memorial Day to Labor Day. And I'll go up for a closer view. So I quilted Baptist fans on this. I used a template, and then I drew the lines and quilted them, and then the border has straight lines in it. Really pretty fabrics in this. The back is kind of fun too. It's kind of Asian toile print that I had in my stash, and then I needed a little bit extra fabric, so I made do and added a bit in the middle. And I have one other quilt to show you, and it fell off the wall, so I'm going to show it in my video. Okay, hope you enjoyed the tour, and then here's the last quilt that likes to fall off the wall. This is from a quilt-along that was on Flickr. I really kind of miss Flickr sometimes. I mean, it's still around, but no one's on it really, or not very much. So this is called the Japanese Plus and X quilt. I'll have to find a video to insert so that you can see it all at once, but I'll give you a close-up. So this is kind of a scrappy quilt, very time-consuming to piece a single block, kind of like Halo, but maybe even more so. So at the time that I started this, which was years ago, I had it in my mind that I was going to make a throw-sized quilt, and then I got really tired of making the blocks, and I realized that I was not making a throw-sized quilt. I was going to make a wall hanging and stop. So I've got lots of cute fabrics. It's fun to show off cute fabrics in quilts like this. And then I just did some kind of outline quilting. The back is nothing fancy. It's just an old Amy Butler print that I had, and then I put a sleeve on it. So I'll insert a photo here so that you can see the whole thing instead of just little pieces of it. Oh, I forgot to mention, I got one block done on Halo this week. I'll insert a photo. So that felt good to get back to Halo. It's been a while, and I haven't meant to leave it so long, but I've just been so busy that Halo's kind of whenever I can get to it. Hopefully more often. I've picked out the last, this is the last row of the body of the quilt, and then I have to make 72 border blocks, and so I picked out the middle square fabric for each of the rest of them, and I'll just kind of fit it in when I can. So I guess that's it for today. I've got some exciting things coming up that I'm looking forward to sharing with you soon. I hope you're having a great day. Hope you're getting lots of stitching time in. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and I hope that you're well. I'll see you in a couple weeks. Take care.